今回使用したクラス以外のデッキを持ち込むとしたら、どのクラス？ウマ娘プリティダービー以外の選択肢やね。
Shadowverse Evolve is a trading card game derived from the digital card game Shadowverse. And in the Shadowverse Evolve English format, Musume is releasing in just 2 weeks on the 8th of December. In the Japanese format, it was a 2-deck meta with Dragoncraft and Musume fighting against each other for the top spot. But after Dragoncraft got Shenlong restricted to 1 Hall of Fame, Musume quickly rose to becoming the most dominant deck in the format, and it wasn't even close. Musume was used in 7 out of 8 decks in the top 8 of Grand Prix Osaka. It became a 1-deck format for quite a while, until other sets got released and power crept it. Will the same happen to the English format where Musume just dominates every other deck? Let's talk about it. Before I talk about if Musume will dominate the English format, I want to clarify the main differences between the English and Japanese format. The Japanese format had Shenlong unrestricted when Musume released, which allowed Dragon to have a fighting chance for 2 months before it got restricted. While in the English format, Musume gets released while Shenlong is already unrestricted. Another big difference is the English restriction with the cards Trial Initiation and Ikuno Dictus. These cards can be used only at 1 copy in the Musume deck, and using more than 1 copy will make an illegal deck. Those are the main differences between those 2 formats. So on to the main topic. Will Musume destroy the English meta? To know that, you have to know what made Musume good in the first place. Musume has a variety of cards to select from, to the point where it can do everything. It has tempo, it has control, it has an early game, it has a late game, it has consistency, it even has your girl. The main combo of Musume are with the cards Daiwa Scarlet and Vodka. Daiwa Scarlet searches for a spell in your deck, and for each turn, your first spell gets -1 cost, while your third spell gives a follower storm. That works for both turns, which means that during your opponent's turn, your 1-cost quick spell that deals 2 damage becomes free, and 2-cost quick spells that deals 4 becomes 1 cost. Those are the main search targets. If you already had those cards, you can search for this 1-cost spell called Trial Initiation to get more cards for free. Or even in some situations, you can search for powerful spells like this 2-cost spell that gives Storm and +1/+1 to a follower, or this 5-cost spell that in the late game can destroy all opponent followers, draw 3 and discard 3 of your opponent's cards. After all that, it's pretty obvious that Daiwa is pretty good, but with Vodka, it gets even more ridiculous. Vodka's skill is that it can be played for only 1 cost when Daiwa is on the field. And also, once per turn, every turn, when you play a spell, your whole board gets +1/+1 and rush. That is insane! Because every turn you get to play spells for cheap or free with Daiwa Scarlet's skill, your board gets bigger naturally when playing spells, even during your opponent's turn. When you play a quick spell to deal with your opponent's followers, your board also gets bigger due to Vodka's effect working on both turns. Let's talk about another card called Agnes Tachyon. I swear I'm pronouncing that right. Tachyon's skill lets you give -1/-1 to an opponent's follower whenever you play a spell. And yes, you guessed it, it works on the opponent's turn. Her Evolve effect also lets you get spells back from the graveyard. This means that with Daiwa Scarlet, Agnes Tachyon and Vodka on the field, you have 3 passive effects active on both players' turns that buffs your board, control opponent followers, and reduces your spell costs. Needless to say, that combo is very good. What about the late game? You have cards like Narita Bryan, which is a card that has Bane, Ward, and Aura, while having the ability to ping an opponent's follower or leader for 5 damage. Another late game card that is a big finisher is Ogori Cap, that can be a 10/7 storm on turn 9 that also deals 3 damage to the opponent's board. It can even be used early, because the 10/7 is only if you decide to pay the 3 play points to feed it 3 times. If you're in a pinch or just need to deal some damage, you can pay less for it to be a 8/6 or 6/5, or even not feed it at all for a 4/4 storm that also deals 3 damage to the opponent's board. With all these strong cards, surely you need to be lucky to draw into them, right? Wrong. There are cards like Trial Initiator that tutors for 1 card from the top 2 cards of your deck, Iconodictus, that's a ward and tutors one card from top 3, and Special Week that literally just draws a card and is even able to buff your board on overflow. All these cards make your deck consistent. On a late game turn with Daiwa Vodka and Special Week, you can have a big board while controlling for as low as 7 play points. Uma Musume also has a better version of Insight in the card supporting you, which is just Insight which draws a card but also gives the follower +1 attack, or +2/+1 if the follower is Seiyun Sky. Another good card that draws is Narita Top Road, which is a 3-cost 3/3 that when fed gains +1/+1 and draws 2 and discards 1. For even more consistency, the Uma Musume deck uses the card Rice Shower, which not only controls the board, but also lets you revive any card from your graveyard to your hand on last words. There are also control options, like Maroon Zensky, that works with your graveyard to give -4/-4 to an opponent's follower, and gives -2/-2 on evolve regardless. Cards like Asian Flash is basically a Rose Gardener that gains +1/+1 on feed, and returns an opponent's followers to hand, so the last words do not activate. This works especially well against cards like Leonidas, with the powerful last words effect. All the cards I've mentioned are the main cards that make up the Uma Musume deck. These cards are really good and allowed Uma Musume to dominate the Japanese format for about 2 sets. But will it do the same to the English meta? Let's get one thing clear. Restriction your biggest consistency options in Chunk Initiator and Iconodictus will hurt the deck's performance quite a lot, especially because both cards are such a good consistency option that you need for the deck to not feel clunky. Without multiple copies of Ikuno and Trial Initiator, the deck's consistency takes a very big hit, making the Daiwa Vodka combo a lot less achievable in-game, and thus making the deck a lot more high-rolly. Also in the English format, Shenlong is pre-restricted. The meta in the English format will play out very differently than in the Japanese format. In my personal opinion, I think Uma Musume will still probably be the best deck, until the release of English Set 4 where Egg Havencraft becomes the best deck. Uma Musume excels in all areas compared to the other decks in the Set 2 format, and I'm pretty confident that it will be the best deck. However, the deck won't be as overwhelming as it is in the Japanese format, due to the heavily reduced consistency. So yeah, bye bye.